Pixel art games have been making a huge comeback in recent years, but this time not because we are limited by technology, but just simply because pixel art is really great. Some game developers are adjusting their workflows so they come to a pixel art product in the end, even though they don't start with pixel art. For example, they may start with a 3D model and then they export it with different shaders and textures and it looks like pixel art. Others go the usual way of using a pixel art editor and making pixel art sprites, and that is exactly what we're going to be doing today. We will go over how to generate a dynamic pixel grid, how to set up a color picker, how to actually draw over pixels, and in the end, how to export your finished product into a PNG image or a sprite. As you can see, I already have a lot of things set up over here. So in this project, I don't want to concentrate that much on CSS. We are using some CSS, but it's all really simple. We just use a lot of flexbox to center everything, and we have some colors set up, but I will show you all of that later. As you can see, I already have a React app set up. I'm using the create React app pixels command to create a new project called Pixels. There are a couple of plugins that you will need to install. If you want to use Sass, you will need to set up this plugin over here with this command. So npm install node-sass at 4.14.1, and then you will be able to rename all of your CSS files to SCSS. I've set up a new folder called components and another one called styles, and in styles I've set up all of my SCSS files. As you can see, we have a few components here. So we have the initial app.js component, which is completely emptied out. I've just left the reference for its SCSS file. I've also went ahead and set up all of the components that we're going to use for this project. There's not many of them. The way they are set up right now is they all follow the same structure. They import React from React. They import their own style sheet from the styles folder, which is named the same way as the component, and we are exporting a default function called whatever the component's name is, and they return a div. This one has the ID of drawing panel. The editor has the ID of editor. The pixel has a class name of pixel because we are going to set up many different pixels in our grid. And row also has a class name, which is called row because we are going to set up multiple rows. So the way we are going to generate the pixel grid is by generating different rows based on the height, and then based on the width, in each row we are going to set up individual pixels, and when they stack on top of each other, they're going to form a pixel grid. For SCSS, I've set up a properties file where we have our variables or our properties. For app CSS, I'm importing the properties file, and I've also imported a font from Google called Play. I've set up the body and HTML to have no margin and no padding, and the rest is just setting up the body to use the font family, to use flex to justify everything, to align everything, and to center the text. And I've set up the background color to black and the color of text to white, and that's pretty much it. I'm not going to go into detail for other CSS files, but just know that pretty much everywhere we are using display flex, centering everything, and setting up some margins to create a little bit of spacing between items. This file over here has the most CSS changes, but like I said, still we are just setting up display flex. Here we are setting up our input to be a square, setting up some font sizes, borders. The main thing for the pixel is to set your pixel width and height. I've set it up here to 1.5 rem. Row, we are just once again simply displaying everything as flex and fitting content properly. And that's really it. So app component is set up like this. It just returns a div with a class name of app, and we are going to import the editor from editor, and we are going to enter it over here. And that is literally all the code that we need for the app component. Now we need to move to the editor component, which is going to be the biggest component of them all. I started the app and you can see that all of our colors are being applied. The red border is a border around the editor, so that's going to expand as we add stuff to it. First, we're going to set up all of our JSX, and then I'm going to add all of the state stuff that we're going to control in the editor. First of all, we have an H1, which is going to say pixel editor. Then we are going to have an H2, which is going to have a text saying enter panel dimensions, because we are going to set up two inputs to control the height and the width of the panel. Then we are going to set up a div with an ID of options, and inside we are going to set up another div with a class name of option, and there are going to be two options which are two inputs. So we will have one input with a class name of panel input, and this is going to be type of number because we are entering the pixel count for the width and for the height. We are going to have a default value, which for now I'm going to set up to 16, but we are going to set up this with useState. And we want to have an onChange event, which is going to happen when the value changes, and I'm just going to leave this here as it is. So we have an input with a type number, with a class name of panel input, and with a default value of 16, which we are going to change later by setting it with a useState. And then after the input, we are going to set up a span with a text of width. And then I'm just going to copy all of this, the whole content of the option div, and this is going to change to height because this is going to be our height, and this everything and all of this remains the same, except we're going to add another onChange event over here. And if I save, we're going to get the width and the height inputs over here. Below that, we're going to have a button with a class name of button, which is going to have some text, which we are also going to set up with useState. And it's also going to have an onClick event. For now, let's say start drawing, and we will manage its state later. Like I said, we're going to use a lot of useState hook here, so we need to import it from React. And at the top here, I'm just going to copy paste all of the declarations that we're going to use, and I'm going to explain them. Like I said, we are going to control our inputs for width and height, and we're going to use the useState for that. So we are basically here setting up 16 by 16 pixels to be our default panel dimensions. We have two state properties for hiding the options part, which is the options are just the inputs that you have. And there is a part for hiding the drawing panel, which we are going to use to show and hide the drawing panel. And once we click start drawing, the panel is going to change, the hide drawing panel is going to change to false, and the panel is going to show over here. Then we want to control the text for our button here, because we want to reuse the same button for resetting the panel after we start drawing. And we are going to use another property for setting up the color for the color picker. This color over here is just something that is the default first color in our color picker plugin that we're going to use. Once we've added the panel width and panel height, we can remove the default value string over here and just say panel width for the width, and for the height we do the same thing. So now the default value is going to be set up with the useState property and not by a string. And for the onChange, we are going to set up a function which is just set panel width, and we are going to say eTarget.value, which is going to be the value of the input that is currently set up. And I'm going to do the same thing for the height. For the button, we want to stop using this text over here, and we will use the button text property. So I'm just going to remove this and set up the button text. Next, we need to set up an onClick event for the button here. So we need to make a function called initializeDrawingPanel. In the initialize drawing panel, we are going to set hide options to not hide options, which just means we're going to switch it from false to true and from true to false. We are going to do the same thing for the set hide drawing panel. So we're just going to say set hide drawing panel, and we're going to say not hide drawing panel. And for button text, we are going to set an expression saying if button text equals start drawing question mark, then we want to set the button text to reset, because like I said, we want to reuse the button. And if it's not start drawing, then we want to set the button text to start drawing. This means that when we initialize drawing panel, we are going to hide the options, show the drawing panel, and we are going to change the button text to reset. And then when we call it again, we are going to show the options, hide the drawing panel, and change the button text to start drawing. So the only thing left is to set up an onClick event saying onClick initialize drawing panel, and I'm going to use the hide drawing panel to show and hide a couple of different things, and we do it like this. So open up curly braces, hide drawing panel, and close curly braces. So now what this means is if the hide drawing panel is true, so the panel is hidden, I want to show this title here saying enter panel dimensions, but when I click start drawing, I want that to hide. I don't want for the user to see enter dimensions, because the dimensions are going to be hidden, and we are going to hide them the same way. Hide drawing panel and then we need to put normal brackets around the whole options tag. So I believe this is it. Now when I hit start drawing, all of the options are hidden, the button text changes to reset, and then we are finished with this part of the pixel editor. So our state changes and we are happy with what we are seeing here. So now we need to add the color picker and add the pixel grid. To add the color picker, you need to run this command, npm install react-color. To add the color picker, you need to run this command, npm install react-color, because we are installing the plugin called React Color. I've already done that, so I don't need to right now. Now we need to import the plugin over here, and we are going to use one of the pickers from the plugin called Circle Picker from React-Color. If you are interested about the plugin's options and properties, you can just search the React Color Picker plugin on Google, and there is going to be a link below. There are a bunch of different pickers. We are going to use the circle one, which has a default palette, and we are going to edit that palette a little bit. But like I said, there are a lot of options and instructions on how to set everything up. So if you want, you can check it out and use a different color picker. They are all similar in their functionalities. But like I said, we are using Circle Picker for this project, and I'm going to add it just below the button for start drawing, and we're just going to say Circle Picker. Now Circle Picker has a couple of its own properties which we can set up. The color is the default color that is going to be selected. So I'm just going to pass in the selected color. And selected color is this property over here in useState. You can see the color picker working. So this color over here is actually this color over here. And if I change it to something else, if that color exists in the color picker, that color is going to be selected. If it doesn't exist, nothing's going to happen. Then we can set up an onChangeComplete event, which means what happens when we click on a color. And what is going to happen is we want to change the color. Now, change color is a function that we don't currently have, so I'm going to add it, and it's just going to set up the state. So function change color accepts a parameter called color, and inside we need to set color to color.hex. And this parameter we are getting from the color picker itself, and inside there is a hex value. So when we click on a button, you can see it moving, and we are basically on change complete. When I click on this pink color, we had the onChangeComplete fire, and it called the change color, and now we've set the color. We've set the selected color to this property. I'm also going to set up circle picker to be hidden, because we don't want it actually showing until we start drawing. And when we start drawing, we want to see the color picker being shown. Now we can move on to the drawing panel. So I'm going to import drawing panel from drawing panel, and we are going to add it over here. Now we are not going to see much because nothing is in there, but if I say drawing panel over here, it should pop into view right over here. So you can see drawing panel. We are going to hide drawing panel, but I'm not going to do it right now because I want to see what's going on. We have a couple of properties that we want to send into the drawing panel. So we want to send a width, which is our panel width property from over here. We want to send the panel height, and we want to send the selected color that we've set up with our color picker tool. Now inside the drawing panel, we are going to accept some props, which we just added. So those are going to be width, height, and selected color, which will equal to props. And in the return, we want to delete this, and we want to say a div with ID of pixels, and inside we want to say rows. And what is rows? Rows is a property which we don't have yet, and rows is going to be an array of rows, which is for now going to be empty. And how do we get rows? We get rows by saying for let I equal 0, I less than height, and I plus plus. So in the for loop, we're going to say rows dot push, and we are going to push a row component, which we don't have yet. So I need to import it. Import row from row, and here we are going to say basically just a row component, and inside we need to pass in a couple of props. So since we are iterating, we need to set up a key which we are going to use, which we're going to set up as index. We need to set the width, which is going to equal to width, and we are going to set up the selected color to selected color. So what this basically does is this: we have a height that we've set up. For the number of pixels that is going to be in the height, that's how many rows we want to set up. So if we set up our height to 10, we want 10 rows, right? And inside of each row, we want to pass in the width. And if we pass in the width of, let's say, 10, we want 10 pixels per row. And this way we're going to have 10 by 10 pixel grid, which is going to be 100 pixels. We are passing in the selected color because inside of rows we're going to have all of the pixels, and when we click on them we want to use the selected color to change their background color. Nothing is happening right now because we need to add stuff to row. So in row we are also going to have some props which we need to deconstruct. So we're going to say const width and selected color equals props. We are also going to have an array of pixels, which is going to be an empty array, and we are going to do the similar thing that we did in the drawing panel here. So we are going to set up a for loop saying for let I equal 0, I less than width, and I plus plus, and inside we're going to say pixels dot push, and inside we need to push the pixel component, which we don't have imported here, so let me do just that. Import pixel from pixel. Now we can say push pixel, close the tag, and inside once again we're going to enter the key, which is going to be the index. And we need to pass in the selected color because that's the color that we are going to use to color the pixel. Once again, nothing is showing up because we don't have our pixel component set up. So let's do just that. Pixel is also going to accept props or a single prop, which is going to be selected color equal to props. And inside of here, we are literally just going to have this single div, except we are going to add a couple of things to it. Before setting up anything for the pixel div, we need to handle its state. We are going to do a couple of different things, which I'm going to explain, but first we need to import useState from React. And here are all of the states that we are going to handle for it. So pixel color is going to be set with set pixel color, and its state is going to be FFF, which is the white color. What this is going to be used for is this is going to be the background color of the pixel. So we are going to set up this pixel div to use this as a background color, which is essentially going to be us coloring the pixel or it having a default color of white. We are going to use the old color when we are hovering over the pixel with our mouse. And this is our helper property, which we are going to use while switching the color on hover. So let's see how that is going to be done. Like I said, we are going to set up a background color for this. So to do that, we need to set up an object. And inside, we are going to say background color. And that is going to equal to pixel color. Now we should see something here, and we are not seeing anything here because in the row component I actually need to add the pixels here. So when I add the pixels here, we're going to see the pixels actually pop up. There you can see our drawing panel finally being shown. Like I mentioned, we are going to simulate the color changing when we hover over individual pixels. So to do that, we need to set up a couple of different events. So there is going to be an onClick event, which is going to call the function called applyColor. There is going to be onMouse enter event, which is going to call the function called change color on hover. And there is going to be an onMouse leave event, which is going to call a function called reset color. Now we don't have any of these functions yet, so let's make them. For the apply color, we're going to say function apply color And inside we are going to set pixel color to selected color. And after that we are going to set can change color to false. What this means is when we click apply color function is being called, it's setting the pixel color, which is this property over here, to the selected color, which we are passing into the pixel. And we are after that saying you cannot change the color after this, which is going to affect us hovering over the pixel. So when we hover over pixel, we will be able to change the color, but if we click, then the color is not going to be changeable after that until we hover once again over to the different pixel. Next we have function change color on hover, which also has no parameters. And inside we are going to set the old color to pixel color, and we are going to set pixel color to the selected color. So what this means is on mouse enter, we are calling the change color on hover. We are setting the old color to pixel color, which is basically us making a reserved value for the old color, so we know to which color to switch back once we hover over a different pixel. And we are temporarily setting the pixel color to the selected color. And now we need another function called function reset color. And reset color is going to say if can change color, then we are going to set the pixel color to the old color, and then we are setting can change color to true. When our mouse is leaving the pixel, we are calling the reset color, and we are checking if we can change the color back. So now if I hover over the pixels, you can see there is something happening. So the pixels are changing their colors. Now we are currently showing the panel here, which we don't want to do. So I'm going to go back to editor, and I'm just going to use the hide options property to hide the drawing panel as well, which means if our options are showing, we don't want to show the drawing panel, and vice versa. So in the beginning, when we start the app, we have pixel editor, enter panel dimensions, and if I click start drawing, then I get the color picker and the editor. So now we can also check if the inputs are working. If I hit start drawing, then you see we get a smaller panel with 8 by 8 pixels. So now if I change the color, you can see the color is being changed. And if I actually click on the different pixels, their color is being changed. So we are almost there. Now if I click the reset, and if I change the dimensions back to, let's say, 16 by 16, we get a whole new panel which we can draw over. Now the last thing that we need to add is actually exporting this component over here to a PNG image. Also, now would be a great time to show some support by hitting that subscribe button. To be able to export our component as a PNG image, we need to call this command. So we need to say npm install react component export image. And this is a plugin which has options for exporting to PNG, to JPEG, and to PDF. For this example, we are going to be using export as PNG. To use the plugin, we are going to import it in the drawing panel. So I'm just going to say import export component as PNG from React component export image. In order for this plugin to work, we need to set up some refs or a ref. What are refs? Refs are being used to reference our elements inside of a React app. And to do that in a function component, we need to use a useRef hook. To be able to use the ref hook, we need to set up a constant, and we are going to call it panel ref, and it's going to be equal to useRef hook. And the element that we are going to be referencing is actually going to be this div, which is going to have a collection of all of our rows. So we are going to say ref equals panel ref, and below that we are going to add a button with a class name of button, so it uses the same styling, and we're going to set its text to export as PNG, and we are going to add an onClick event to it saying export component as PNG, and as a parameter we are going to set the panel ref. So right now we don't see anything, but if I hit start drawing, you will see there is additional button over here. So now let's say I changed the color, let's say I did this super awesome masterpiece of a pixel art. This is all very nice and I totally want to export this and use it in my video game. I can click export as PNG, and we are going to get a file component PNG, and if I open that up, you can see that I have a PNG file with my finished pixel art. If I click the reset and let's say I want to do 8 by 8, I do some more drawing. I'm super awesome pixel artist, I'm totally not. Then I hit export as PNG again, I get another PNG, and it's the exact same thing that we drew over here. And that is it. Now we have a functioning pixel art editor. It has a lot of things that can be added to it, it can be expanded upon, but as a starting project I think it's really interesting and it shows some really useful concepts. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, it would really help me out a lot. You can also check out my other videos on the screen right now. My name is Alex and I will see you in the next one.